What's going on, guys? Coach James here from Orange Theory Gresham. I'm here to give you July 13th and 29th power and endurance focus days. As we kick things off, 3G is always the first thing we like to chat about. So diving right in, treadmills get a 14.5-minute block today of power. Now it's going to be a bit of a unique setup. We have some longer durations within this power block, which is pretty off the beaten path. Usually we see those short, sweet, and aggressive efforts. Today, their block starts with a 2-minute push into a 90-second walking recovery. So our opportunity here for setup on those treads is actually going to be maybe testing some higher intensities for runners and joggers as far as speed is concerned, maybe pushing the envelope on inclines with power walkers. By the end of that 2-minute push, we really want them to feel closer to that push to all out feeling. They're right on the edge of that very uncomfortable effort. And when they come to walk things down, that 90 seconds is going to be more than enough time to really drop those heart rates. We're still going to try to achieve that same kind of peak and valley response when it comes to their breath work. When they get into that recovery, really let them soak it up. 3 or less in speed, make sure everyone's in flat road, hands on hips or above the head to really get that air back in their lungs. As they progress through the block, you'll notice the second round actually decreases in time. It's a classic exchange as we ask them to increase their intensities 90 seconds in a push to all out. So they are gonna find that in between eventually, followed by another 90-second recovery. Now this is where things change just a little bit. Instead of that 30-second decrease, it only goes to 15 seconds less. So make sure you keep an eye on that when you're timing things out. Into a 75-second push to all out, eventually turning to a true all out for a minute. You'll see that 45 and 30-second all out as the finisher. And the good news is that recovery for 90 seconds is always gonna be there. So again, that give and take is gonna give them the leverage to make those bumps. And again, pushing themselves kind of past their limits, maybe testing out some speeds or inclines that they otherwise would have been timid taking on before. This is gonna give them the wiggle room to do it. On the row end for the 3G, a lot of moving parts. You might want to take your time, make sure you have enough time to break this down as you demo things out. The rowers are going to have another 14.5 minutes as well, and they have a bit of a bookend situation going on. So the buy-in and the buy-out on the row block are going to be the exact same. Members are going to clear out their OT Connects, set up a 700-meter row countdown, and they're going to achieve it by a 30-second all-out row and 12 reps on a speed squat. As they rep that out and repeat for time, their goal is to get down to 0, right? Until that 700 meters is complete. And then they move on to the second portion of the block where they'll go through 2 exercises for 3 rounds. It is a back-to-back setup at that point. So again, you're gonna wanna communicate minimal transition time, find your recoveries at the end of your round. And when those 3 rounds are complete, they'll buy out of the row block with the same buy-in feature, 700 meters, 30-second all-out row, speed squat for 12, and so on. Now, if they can get through that before the end of the block is over, there's a bonus, a 100-meter all-out row rack and rest. So again, they can linger as long as they need before they grip it and rip it one more time. And of course, everything leads to that 30-second all-out finisher that gets lined up with the treads today. When it comes to the weight floor, this is our endurance block as well. You may see something similar if you were coached or even took class with that strength in numbers on July 4th. Rep counts are gonna be really high today, 16 to 20 total reps. And actually it's a pretty similar objective as well. Our goal is to grab weights or even find the angle on that TRX where we can complete all 16 to 20 reps, they got a range, without any breaks in between. That's gonna be the bigger challenge today. Conservative weight selections are gonna be probably the go-to, something a bit light. It may feel maybe too light in the beginning, but I can guarantee you your members are gonna be feeling it by that halfway mark or more as they try to reach those higher rep counts today. Now the block itself is in a work and rest fashion, so make sure to communicate, hey team, you can linger as long as you need, kind of shake things off before you jump into that next exercise. We know that weight selections can be light for those dumbbell movements, and the grace that you have with TRX is that your footing can always be adjusted a little bit to make the difference in the tension of that exercise. We walk away, things get easier. You walk closer to that anchor point on the wall and things get a little bit more difficult. Now ideally, we'd like to keep those feet flat and still as much as possible without that movement. But again, if they need that for the last 2 reps, encourage them, hey, make a small adjustment so you can complete the movement and then we'll move on. Now that concludes pretty much it for the 3G. As you look at the 2G portion, a lot of what we do in the 3G is actually gonna be mirrored over with a couple variances. In block number 1 on the 2G setting, you're gonna have a 5-minute build. So it's kind of a primer block to some degree. Everyone's gonna have a minute in base, eventually a base push, push all out, and that full 1 minute all out by the end, just to kind of, again, test the waters a little bit, see what those speed or inclines are going to look like. And then as you move into that second block, it effectively is going to be mirroring what we're doing in the 3G, starting with that 2 minute push as we get a little more aggressive in those intensities, 90-second recoveries. There is one difference at the end of block 2 on the treads for the 2G. You will see a 1 minute all out versus a 30-second. So again, it's going to bounce back up in time as they increase their speeds to finish out their day. On the weight floor side, their first block is actually going to be a row block. You see the buy-in portion of the 3G is going to be the first 5 minutes of the weight floor side. So they'll get their 700 meter countdown, 30 all out, and their speed squat to try to get it done back down to 0 in that distance, where instead of a rack and rest, they'll move into a row for distance as a bonus. If they finish it in 5 minutes, it'll be pretty impressive. And lastly, when it comes to the weight floor, again, effectively you're mirroring the same exercises between 16 and 20, but again, that finisher, because it's longer for the treads, it's also gonna be longer for the weight floor. They're gonna see an isometric low side plank for 30 seconds on their left side. Make sure you call that halfway mark treads so the weight floor can flip over and hit their right side for 30 seconds as well. That is really it for the block for the 13th and again the 29th as it gets repeated. So have fun with it. As always, keep the music loud, try to take class if you can, and we'll catch you next time.